When we do a feasibility, there's a few things that we need to do here. One is we need to determine how much of the land is buildable, or I call it developable land. And if you look up here at the top, we've got our total site area of 24,932 square metres. But because of some green space and things like that on the block, 30% of it is considered green space. So that means that my usable land is 17,452 square metres. So that's all I can develop on, right? So that's the important parameter there, okay? So then what do we look at is we try and go and get our option, and the option period we've got on this particular block is 24 months. And we believe by giving us 24 months, that reduces the interest requirements for us to hold the land and pay the full price for the land. So it means the development program, this development program begins after the DA starts. So we're only going to have an 8-month build on this block, and that's where we get a lot of our costings from, right? Because you only have to put in 19 blocks into this development, and we believe we can build those in 8 months. So then we come up, that's the development program. So they're the parameters we set ourselves up to start the actual pricing for this particular allotment here and what we're going to do. So the next thing we look at is the purchase price. And you'll see here the purchase price we've got for this particular block is 2.7 million. The GST on that will be 270,000. The stamp duty on costs is 108,000, and the total purchase amount is 3,078. But you'll see later that they'll get that GST amount back because that's claimable back on their tax. So that'll be a deduction later on. So we'll see how that comes out later. But that's your purchase price, your total purchase price up front. You've got to have 3 million cash. But the way we've staged the option document is that we're going to just pay $270,000, 10%, to hold the property for the period of time for the 24 months. So it reduces your holding costs. So therefore, if we just do a rough loan calculation here, we're going to assume that any developer coming in won't want to use their own cash to do the development. So what we're saying here is to fund the purchase, the investor input would be 30%. So we'd be looking for our investors to put 923,000 in, and we can get a loan for the 2.15 million that we need to purchase the land. And there's a little bit of land interest here because you've got to, during that development period of 8 months, we're going to have paid the full amount of purchase price, and therefore we're going to have an interest bill of 129,000 based on a 9% interest rate, which is an elevated interest rate, but we'd rather be conservative because at the moment you can get, we're getting development sort of interest rates around 5.5% at the moment, about half that, but I like to be conservative and put 9% in there just in case something happens in this ensuing period. So that sort of sets up then the financial part of it, of the purchase and funding the interest payments on holding the land for the 8 months of the development program before you get any revenue. All right. So then we look at the sale price, and we've optimized this particular block. And we do say optimize it because we look at different lot sizes that we can do within the code accessible zoning of this particular allotment. And at the moment, we can put 900 square metre blocks on, or we can go even a bit larger if we want to as well. But we've got to meet certain density requirements on these blocks. And so we're making a little bit larger blocks, which are rare in this particular area. We've actually cased the sales, the real estate agents around the area, and they've told us that there's a lot of blocks at, 450 to 500 square metres, and then it goes to 6,000 square metres, and there's nothing in between. And there's a lot of demand for this size of block. So they said if we could bring this to the market, they believe very easily we can sell these blocks for 472,000. That's where we get our benchmarks. And the thing there with these benchmarks, we get them from a number of different people here in terms of, we've got these from Phil Clay, Harcourt's Marketplace with Sarah Bailey. She gave us a couple of quotes there, even up as high as 600,000 we've got there. And we bring these back in and we average them out, and then we'll age them by the 2-year period, because it's going to be 2 years time that we're going to be selling these blocks, or at least probably 12 months in. And so we believe that 472 is a pretty conservative price at the moment for a 900 square metre block. And then we can work out that we're going to get 19 blocks on this particular allotment based on our 17,500 available. So therefore we get 8.9 million realised value. So in other words, realised value in sales. But then we've got to look at our cost of sales. So agents' commission, if we pay them 3%, sometimes that might average only 2.5%, but we've been conservative again. We've only got 19 blocks to sell. So we said if we have to pay them 3%, it'll be 269,000 in commission, less the legal expenses and advertising and promotion. We've allowed 50,000 in there, and of course they'll put some advertising in with from the agent's commission as well. And therefore our selling costs are 341,000, leaves us a realised price of revenue coming in of 8.626 million coming in on that revenue side. So then now we come into the development costs. So now we've got to build this thing, and what is it going to cost us to build the allotments? And at this stage, for this particular feasibility, all I've done here is got these blocks to saleable land allotments. So we're not talking about putting houses on them or anything else. We could actually earn some more revenue. So if your developers wanted to do some house and land packages, they could actually make some more money and add to their revenue stream and get some more profitability. But for me at the moment, I've just worked it out just purely on developing allotments. And the way we do this is we've looked at how many allotments we can make. Then we look at the cost per allotment, and these particular prices here, I'm basing on, I've got a few different people that we've got prices from. And these are the civil costs per block. We've got Jamison's, we've got Akron, and we've got Chadfirst. And they've told us between those three, it averages out at $77,000 per allotment to do the civil costs on this particular block. So if you look at that cost for the civils, it's 1.463 million on this particular allotment. And then we've got some professional fees, and we've got some council contributions. And the council contributions is the amount that the council charges per lot that we have to do it. And in this particular council, it's $28,335.90 for the actual costs coming in to do the allotment. And when we do those prices there, the DA cost estimate there is there as well. How much is it going to cost us to apply for the DA to do the development is 260,000. That's that 2-year period where we've just got to do all those DA applications to actually put the blocks in. We've had some preliminary discussions with council and got an indication that we'd be able to build the 19 allotments based on the rough plan that we've got. And then we put in 5% for contingencies. We've got interest development on the costs of doing the development, because we've got to fund this development. And we've got the bank fees, and we've got our standard rates. And there's an interesting one with this one, which is a bit of an additional cost that's a little bit unusual. We've got 600,000 in for trunk infrastructure costs because we've got to bring the sewer through the northern neighbour of this particular block, and we've got permission from that neighbour, and we've got written permission from that neighbour that we can do this. And it's about 450 odd metres we've got to bring the sewer through to connect up to the top of the property if you want to put sewer onto the property. And there's no need, you don't have to put sewer on the property, but it certainly makes it a bit more attractive to buyers if they have that sewer on. And we've got water already at the front of the property. It's just sewer that we haven't got there at this particular point. So we've put it in the feasibility that we will add sewer to the properties. All right, so the development cost then comes to 3.426 million for the development costs. Okay. So now we know our costs, we know our revenues, then we can come down here and work out the profitability. Now, one of the interesting thing is, and I just noticed here, I should, there's one thing on here that shouldn't be 270,000 there. We should get actually more, because that equals, what happens with infrastructure costs, you actually get 50% of it back. So you actually get 300,000 back. So if you spend $600,000 on putting trunk infrastructure in, which is building a new sewer line, the council will give you 50% of that infrastructure cost back. So that comes back in as a revenue stream. The total purchase price we had from above was 3,078. The development costs are there. And also on the, oh, actually that one there wasn't, sorry, that one there was right. That was the GST rebate, Wayne. That's what I was doing there, sorry. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. The GST rebate, you get the GST back, then you get the total purchase price, you got the development costs, and you got the land interest here coming off there. The total cost is 6.346. So that's the total cost of everything there. Now I'm just minus I-63, so that's right, yeah. I'm just making sure that this GST is coming off because on my other ones, yep.
Just give me one sec. Rich, I can't hear. I can't hear. Right? Okay, so please, sorry. So you're saying now the figures are, yeah?
The figures are fine.
Okay.
The figures are fine. So these ones here, you got the purchase price, the development costs, you got to pay the land interest, right? So your total cost is 6.34 there, coming to, and you've got your net realisation value, which we had up here at 8.626. That just comes down into here. So the net profit is, of course, the realisation value minus the development costs and the purchase price, right? So we've got this net profit. But we've also got this 300,000 coming back from the profit, additional profit here from the council, 300,000 coming back. So our net profit is 2562427. So if you divide that figure, 252624267, divide that by the total cost, then of course you're going to come to this 40.26% profitability.
So what's your profit margin?
40.26%, as I'm highlighting here now.
Where is it? Oh, 40%.
40.26%.
Profit on cost. Profit.
Yeah.
Profit is 2.5 million, and your cost is total development cost.
6,364.
Cost. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So is that profit and go up to that? So your 40%. How did you get the LVR?
The LVR
Yeah,
is,
how did you get that?
well, that's just the total cost, right?
Yeah.
Minus the total loan amount required, because that's just your loan to valuation. And you minus those two and then divide it by I-40, which is the net realisation value.
Is the LVR.
Yeah.
The LVR, from my understanding, is lending value ratio, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's the lending value ratio over the total realisation price. So how much do I need to borrow versus how much am I going to earn?
So what's made that? So what's your opinion on the LVR? This one.
Well, what it means is that the loan to value ratio means you only have to borrow 50% of the funds to realise the profit that you're going to get. So it's a very low. If you're below 50%, that means you need very little money to actually develop this property. You know, we go as high, when I'm doing developments, I'll go as high as loan to value ratios of 75%, where I stop and say, no, I'm not going to do it anymore.
So
below 50 is very good. Anyone will love a LVR less than 50.
Okay, so developers margin are 1.5.
Sometimes I do this. So normally developers want 25% margins. You know, that's their normal working thing. And so what we're saying here is, if you went with the normal 25% margin, you'd have 1.5 million, which is your 25% margin. You'd have this extra bit of money here. You've got a safety window, if you like.
Okay.
971,000. You nearly got $1 million extra there as a safety net, and still get 25%. Whereas, and that's the advantage of having something that's starting at 40% like this, because you've got some contingency. And if you look at the contingencies I've built in on this one, I've got above 25%. We've got 970,000 there. We've also got a contingency of 5%, another 150,000 up the top here, where I've put that contingency in there. And I always do that on these developments to be conservative. And if they manage this project well, they will come out with more than 40% if they manage it well. If they stuff around and take too long and take longer than 8 months to build it, it'll cost them more money. So the big question for them is, do they think they can build 19 blocks in 8 months? And all the contractors we've talked to said they could easily build 19 blocks in 8 months. And we do this in one go. We would, because it's so small a development, it's only 19 blocks. We don't have staging here, so it's not a complicated development. And so we just develop the whole thing in one go and do the whole 19 lots in one go. That's my advice.
Yeah.
And that way you can save a bit of money. That way you don't have to bring contractors backwards and forwards, because they charge you staging costs then to take them away and bring them back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one's a nice little one. It's pretty straightforward. Just got to do the DA. And again, you know, I don't even think you'll need 260,000 to do a DA on such a small allotment as this one, but you know, with only 19 lots, as long as they make it accessible.
So how long do you anticipate the DA process?
It'll be 2 years. That's why I've made a 2-year option process. Yeah.
Okay, so 2 years.
Yep. That's why the option period's 2 years. But if they've got very good people supporting them, there have been people get through, and it's code accessible. The key word here is, if you do a code accessible development and you work in with the council and don't try and challenge them to do something different outside the norm, then you can get your DA through very quickly, you know, and And I always aim to get, I've got 24-month options, but of course you can exercise the option sooner whenever you're ready. But the key is you usually have the option, you don't exercise the option until you've got your DA. And if that takes 12 months, you could be here in 12 months time or 6 months time, and you're exercising your DA and getting straight into this block and starting to develop it, you know? There's nothing stopping you.
So above the spreadsheet, you had a valuation price.
Yes.
Can we go back to that? Just have one more look.
Yeah, so what we do is we go over here and we'll look at land prices. We have, see all these things here. I'll show you the benchmarking. So we've got a land price comparisons by suburb, and we've got them all here where we go and get all these benchmarks from a lot of different places. And then what we do is we summarize them back up here, and we get the retail land prices. Here is what we expect to actually pay for this particular thing, and then we'll age it by years so that we know where we can fit it in. But we're pretty happy with our price at the moment at the 472, because we know in a couple of years' time we can probably, if it takes us 2 years to do the DA and we're going to be selling it in year 3 out here, we can get 491. We believe the price will be around that 490 to 500,000 mark when you're going to be trying to sell them.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's how we do our aging. If I was selling them right now today, I'd be selling them for 467, but we haven't got the blocks ready today. We're going to have them ready maybe next year. It'll be 479, and then the year after is going to be 491.